What if the scariest monster in movie history was never meant to be seen? When Spielberg's mechanical shark kept breaking down, he turned the problem into genius, using silence, shadows, and music to build terror. That accident didn't just save the film, it invented the modern blockbuster and made the whole world afraid to go in the water. Number 20. The shark had a name. Everyone called the mechanical shark Bruce. It wasn't named after a producer or a character, but after Steven Spielberg's lawyer. Spielberg thought it was funny to name a monster after the man who scared him with contracts, but Bruce didn't behave. He broke down so often that the crew nicknamed him the Great White Turd. The salt water destroyed his metal parts, and every time he sank, divers had to fish him out like a toy gone wrong. Yet, all those breakdowns gave birth to a brilliant idea. Spielberg decided not to show the shark much. He let fear grow in our imagination instead. What looked like a terrifying genius plan started as a broken machine. Number 19. The movie almost sank. Shooting on the open ocean sounded romantic, but it turned into a nightmare. Waves rocked the cameras. Boats drifted away. Equipment short-circuited. One day, the entire floating platform that held the shark started to sink, with people still on it. Crew members threw equipment into the water, yelling, "Save the film!" Saltwater ruined lenses, ruined costumes, ruined everything. Spielberg later called it the chute from hell. But that chaos gave the movie its real power. The ocean wasn't a green screen. It was wild, angry, and alive. What looked like nature's beauty nearly destroyed the production. Number 18. The shark didn't work, so the music saved it. Because Bruce the Shark broke so often, Spielberg couldn't show it early in the movie. He panicked. How could you make people fear something they couldn't see? Then composer John Williams came up with 2 notes. Just 2. Dun-dun, dun-dun. Spielberg laughed at first, thinking it was a joke. But when he heard it with the film, it changed everything. That sound became the shark's heartbeat. It told you the monster was near, even if you saw nothing. No shark, no problem. Just music and fear. What started as a fix became one of the most famous movie themes in history. Number 17. The first victim was terrified for real. The woman in the opening scene, Chrissy Watkins, was played by actress Susan Backliny. She's the one swimming at night before being dragged underwater. To make the attack look real, the crew tied her to underwater cables that yanked her back and forth. But here's the catch. They didn't tell her when they'd pull. So every scream, every gasp, every plea, it was real. She was freezing, shocked, and gasping for breath. When the director called cut, she was shaking. What looked like perfect acting was real. Fear and pain. Number 16. Spielberg was only 27. Steven Spielberg was barely 27 when he directed Jaws. Most directors at that age are making student films, not $9 million blockbusters on the ocean. The studio doubted him. The crew ignored him. Some actors thought he was too young to lead. But Spielberg's calm voice and wild imagination held everyone together. He saw shots no one else could see. By the end, the same crew that doubted him called him the kid genius. What looked like a boy out of his depth became the captain of one of the greatest films ever made. Number 15. The shark's eyes were painted by hand. The mechanical shark looked fake at first. It didn't have a soul, so Spielberg asked artist Bob Matty to give it personality. Matty spent days painting and repainting the shark's eyes, soft black with tiny gray edges, to make it feel alive. He said, "The eyes are what make it dangerous." Once they lit it right, even the crew got nervous. It wasn't just metal anymore. It was a predator watching them. What looked like rubber and paint suddenly felt alive. Number 14. The town was real and got flooded with tourists. The sleepy island of Martha's Vineyard became the town of Amity. Before Jaws, it was quiet and peaceful, full of fishermen and local families. After the movie's release, people flooded in. Tourists, reporters, even scientists. Locals who had played extras couldn't walk down the street without being recognized. Shark souvenirs filled every shop. The town never went back to normal. What was once a small fishing village became the birthplace of summer blockbusters. Number 13. The shark scene scared the editor too. In one famous moment, Brody tosses Chum into the sea, and the shark pops up right next to him. When Spielberg first showed that scene to editor Verna Field, she screamed so loudly that she startled the whole office. He laughed and said, "That's how I'll know it's working." Verna later helped him time that moment perfectly, just 1 second longer, and it wouldn't have worked. What looked like a random jump scare was edited to perfection. Fear is rhythm, and they nailed it. Number 12. The crew called it flaws. The movie's real title was Jaws, but after months of mechanical disasters, the crew jokingly called it flaws. Every day something went wrong. Broken motors, sinking props, disappearing sunlight. The mechanical shark had to be dried, oiled, and fixed every single morning. The ocean salt ate through its wiring like acid. Still, Spielberg refused to quit. He said, "If the shark won't work, the ocean will scare people for me." And it did. What looked like failure turned into fear itself. Number 11. The author hated his own story. Peter Benchley wrote the novel Jaws, which became the movie. He even appeared in a small cameo as a news reporter on the beach. But after the film's release, he regretted what it did to sharks. People became terrified of them and started killing them out of fear. Benchley later became a shark conservationist. He spent years teaching people that sharks aren't monsters. What began as fiction turned into a mission to protect real creatures. Number 10. The "you're gonna need a bigger boat" line was improvised. That famous line, "you're gonna need a bigger boat," wasn't in the script. Actor Roy Scheider came up with it on the spot after seeing the huge shark for the first time. Spielberg loved it and kept it in. It became one of the most quoted lines in movie history. Sometimes the best moments aren't written. They just happen. What looked like a scripted punchline was pure instinct. Number 9. The shark attack barrel trick was real physics. To track the shark, the characters shoot barrels that float on the surface. Spielberg used that trick to create tension without showing the shark. The barrels rise, drift, and dive, telling the audience the monster is near. They were attached to cables and pulled by boats just off camera. It was a brilliant way to turn simple physics into fear. What looked like floating toys became a heartbeat of suspense. Number 8. Richard Dreyfuss almost quit actor. Richard Dreyfuss, who played Hooper, almost walked away from the movie. He didn't want to work on a set filled with mechanical sharks and seawater. He even called the project a disaster waiting to happen. But after seeing early footage, he changed his mind and begged to come back. By the end, he loved the experience and became one of Spielberg's biggest supporters. What looked like doubt became destiny. Number 7. The boat really sank. During filming, the main boat, the Orca, started taking on water. Spielberg shouted, "Get the actors off the boat!" The crew scrambled as cameras, sound gear, and film reels floated away. They lost one expensive camera to the bottom of the sea, but a diver later recovered it, film still safe inside. That real panic inspired parts of the final scenes. What looked like movie tension was pure survival. Number 6. Robert Shaw was drunk for real. Robert Shaw, who played Quint, was a powerful actor, but also a heavy drinker. When he filmed the famous scene where Quint tells the story of the USS Indianapolis, he was so drunk he couldn't stand straight. Spielberg had to stop filming and send him home. The next day, Shaw apologized and asked to do it sober. That take, raw, trembling, intense, is the one in the movie. What looked like a performance was part confession, part truth. Number 5. The Indianapolis speech was rewritten overnight. That haunting monologue about sailors eaten by sharks wasn't fully written in the script. Shaw worked with writer John Milius to rewrite it overnight. He wanted it to sound like something a man would say after, living through hell. The next morning, they shot it in one long, quiet take. No music, no tricks, just words and silence. When Shaw finished, everyone on set was speechless. What looked like just another scene became one of cinema's greatest moments. Number 4. Spielberg hid in the bathroom on opening day. When Jaws premiered, Spielberg was terrified it would fail. He sat in a hotel bathroom during the first screening, too nervous to watch. He only came out when he heard people screaming and cheering. That was when he realized it worked. He later said, "That was the moment I knew my life had changed. What looked like fear became triumph." Number 3. The shark's final explosion was done with milk and blood. In the final scene, when the shark explodes, the crew wanted a huge splash, but they didn't have CGI, so they filled a giant tank with milk to make the water cloudy and added fake blood for color. Then they blew up a model shark inside it. When they filmed it in slow motion, it looked massive and horrifying. The effect was cheap, but unforgettable. What looked like million-dollar magic was milk, blood, and creativity. Number 2. Spielberg hid his own cameo. Most people don't know this, but Steven Spielberg appears in the movie's sound mix. At one point, when panic hits the beach, you can hear someone yell faintly in the crowd. That voice? It's Spielberg himself, adding chaos to his own scene. He loved sneaking little pieces of himself into his films. What sounded like background noise was the director whispering inside his creation. Number 1. Jaws created the modern blockbuster. Before Jaws, movies didn't have summer season. Studios released small films during summer because people went outside. But Jaws changed that. Lines wrapped around theaters. People came back again and again. The film became the first to make over $100 million, and every studio realized summer was the perfect time for big releases. That's why today, we have Jurassic Park, Star Wars, Avengers, and all the rest. It all started with one shark that wouldn't work. What looked like a disaster became the blueprint for modern cinema. Bonus fact: the shark still lives. After filming ended, Bruce was sent to a junkyard. Years later, fans discovered one of the old shark models in a scrap pile in California. Dusty, broken, forgotten. It was rescued, restored, and now hangs in a museum, watching visitors with those same painted eyes. You can still see the cracks, the teeth, the steel spine. The monster that once haunted our dreams became a relic of film history. Old metal, new legend. One machine changed storytelling forever. Jaws wasn't just a movie about a shark. It was a story about fear, courage, and the people who face the unknown. It taught us that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we can't see, and that courage doesn't come from strength, but from standing your ground when the water looks dark. From broken machines came movie magic. From one young director came a new kind of cinema. If you enjoyed these stories, subscribe for more. Every film hides a secret, and we'll keep uncovering them, one story at a time.